So a Cameroonian perspective on the diaconia of all believers, prophetic diaconia against corruption, evangelical church strategic plan for all believers. So in Cameroon, corruption is everywhere. Cameroon was mentioned consecutively by Transparency International in its Corruption Perception Index as the most corrupt country in the world. Transparency International 1998. And all observers know that in Cameroon, corruption is everywhere, at school, as much as at the court. This phenomenon is therefore a serious threat to the economic and socio-political development of the country and aggravate the life condition of the poor. It is for this reason that all forces of influence in opinion must mobilize, and the church must not be the rest. This is the origin of our interest to this question in the context of this DOTAC seminar series with the topic of the diaconia of all believers in Cameroonian perspectives. The important question in diaconia for me is not only how to help the needy. The question is also, in one hand, how to avoid the situation of the needy or how to fight against the causes of suffering of the people. In other hand, how to make effective the diaconic policy for a real transformation of the needy. What is the matter with corruption? In Cameroon, the answer of this important question goes through the fight against corruption. Indeed, in Cameroon, corruption is the highest problem which affects all spheres of the society. It is impossible to do something without encountering corruption like a big wall on the road. So it is a major scourge of injustice. By it, the gap between the rich and the poor widens more and more. By it, the innocent are in prison. By corruption, patients do not receive care. There are many other examples. So fighting against corruption is the diaconia of all believers in Cameroon. Definition and causes of corruption in Cameroon. The term corruption comes from the Latin word corruptio, which refers to moral decay, wicked behavior, putridity, or rottenness. We can remember the succinct definition adopted by the United Nations, Transparency International, and the World Bank, namely that corruption is a misuse of public power, office, or authority for private gain. Corruption in Cameroon has several causes. We cannot enumerate all of them, but we will mention the most important ones. According to the survey done by Titi Noel, 2 items stood out: impunity, 35%, and low salary, 31%. In addition to these major reasons, the respondent also mentioned the desire to get rich at all costs, 19%, and the ignorance of right, 12%. Manifestation of corruption. In Cameroon, corruption is perceptible at almost all levels of social life, from an appointment with an administrative staff member to urgent care in the public hospital. In the area of public health, corruption is manifested in emergency. At the level of education, in primary, secondary, and higher education, many learners testify that some teachers give higher mark in return for a certain amount of money. As regards justice and its penal corollary, several cases of corruption are noted. In Cameroon, many people are convinced that the trial is not won at the court, but in the magistrate's office. Labor inspection is not left behind. In Cameroon, work is precarious. Overnight, you can lose your job. Employees may abuse their power and make redundancy that are not lawful. Unfortunately, the case we have mentioned are not the only ones. But the Bible says something about corruption. From the biblical point of view, corruption is related to the concept of sin. It is viewed as the result of human fail and includes all types of human behavior that express disobedience toward God: bribery, fraud, dishonesty, lack of integrity, unfair play, injustice, and other. According to this approach, the term corruption concerns the covenant between God and human beings. It is viewed as something that breaks all together: the love relationship between God and human being and between humans themselves, resulting in the destruction of harmony in the person himself or herself and in the society in which he or she lives. The Bible condemns corruption, even in the strictest sense of the word. The biblical law against corruption can be retraced through the Old and New Testament. According to Paul Kleiner, the oldest reference to corruption in the Old Testament is found in the book of Exodus. Only 3 chapters after the 10 Commandments say, "You shall take no bribe, for a bribe plan to official and subvert the cause of those who are in the right." So in reference to the Bible, what should the church do? It is the question of social involvement of the church. And this question has always been the subject of much discussion, both theological and ecclesiological. According to the Bible, Jesus said that, "I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." This sentence means that he is concerned about every aspect of our lives, and we instruct his follower and consequently his church to be concerned with the whole person as well. Throughout the gospel, we understand that for Jesus, the good news is not only the word, but including the release of prisoners, freedom for oppressed, sight for the blind, and the year of Jubilee. By this, we see that Jesus was politically, because he used power at all levels of society to bring about change. This purpose was the living condition improvement, not only in the spiritual area, but also in the social one. It is for this reason that Todd notes that evangelism and social concern have been intimately related to one another throughout history of the church. The quotation is confirmed by all the theologians identified by Sabahen and who advocate for the social implication of the church. So now, if the Bible is again corruption, if the church should be involved, what is the action of my church, Evangelical Church of Cameroon, against corruption? The social implication of the Evangelical Church of Cameroon is clear. It is here to highlight its specific action in the fight against corruption. Concerning the basic text of the church, it is mentioned in section 29 of the ASA, Evangelical Church of Cameroon, interior regulation that the church should promote and take a stand for justice, peace, freedom, human rights, and the safeguarding of creation and environment. This assumes that since corruption is perceived as a severe threat to social justice and human dignity, the church does not tolerate and does not approve this phenomenon. As a reaction to the persistence and pervasiveness of corruption in Cameroon, a commitment was made by ECC at General Synod and different areas of meeting. Even in the synodal activities, daily life, education, parish, school, hospital, training center, Evangelical Church of Cameroon, through its pastor and chaplain, preach and teach for justice and against corruption. It is also involved in awareness raising campaign, organizing to stop this scourge. But we think that it's not enough. The church needs to integrate new strategy of the church. And I want to share my proposal for my church and even for your church, because corruption is everywhere. The development of strategy involves the definition of the vision, mission, and goal of the project. Concerning the fight against corruption, the vision should be considerably and remarkably reducing corruption in Cameroon society through an awareness of the harmful nature of this scourge. Our mission proposal is to promote the transformation of population through education for a change of mentality and practice. Concerning goal, we suggest 3, to educate youth on the misdeed of corruption in order to raise awareness leading to the rejection of this practice. 2, to promote reference behavior in the social institution of the church in order to serve as a model for other organizations in society. 3, set up a platform for the church's prophetic action against corruption based on denunciation and proposal. This is our 3 goal suggestion. We organize this by objective. First objective, making youth a major player in the fight against corruption, because we think that if we transform the youth population, we can transform all the country. So strategy, establish anti-corruption club in school of the church, organize awareness campaign, create a Facebook group of sensitization. Second objective, eradicate corruption in the management of the church institution. So develop code of conduct, set up local anti-corruption vigilance committee, and review employee pay policy. And 3 objectives, making the church as a platform for denunciation and anti-corruption proposal. So train pastor in the fight against corruption, organize an annual and national anti-corruption week, create an anti-corruption advocacy service in the church diaconic department. This is our proposal to improve the war against corruption in my church and integrate all believers in the church. But for my personal project, because I think that the church alone or the government only cannot fight against corruption. So I want to close my intervention to share with you, this is my personal project. I initiate with colleagues and with friends one association that I call ASESCO. ASESCO is Association Émergence sans Corruption. This is in French, but we can translate in English that development without corruption. So ASESCO, an association whose mission is to educate and create awareness in order to eradicate corruption in Cameroon. So near the church, we encourage the personal activities, personal action, and ASESCO is the personal project with some colleagues and friends. So thank you very much, and sorry once again concerning the issue of my my device, but I hope that I try to do my best to improve and ameliorate this situation. Thank you, Ted. It is all.
Thank you, Parfait. It was a crash course in making change and strategies for making change, which will be applicable to all of us, because I think it's a diagonal task to be making change. Marcy, would you like to say thank you to Parfait officially for us? Parfait, could you stop sharing maybe?
Yes.
Ted, you might need to initiate that.
Okay. You go ahead, Marcy, and I'll work on it.
Yes, okay, it's okay. Thank you.
There we go.
There we go. I add my words to Ted's thanks already. Parfait, what an amazing presentation, and lots and lots of food for thought. I particularly appreciated the way that you gave us some context of Cameroon, which is unfamiliar to many, though perhaps not all, and set up a biblical basis for the work that you are doing, not only in support, but also in transformative change. And one of the things that really moved me was your sort of multi-pronged approach. We're using networks, using different kinds of media and opportunities to reach out to different populations to address this issue, and really to encourage the church to consider that this is something for everyone, and that this is something that is an action item and not just something to talk about. So I really appreciated that model for us, and taking us through the steps that you have been engaged in. And I look forward to hearing more about it as you go through with the association and other parts of the project.
Thanks, Marcy. And Parfait, there's folks entering thanks in the chat too, and particularly one person was inspired by